Tucker Carlson is kind of floundering for relevance. It really is satisfying to see. You know how Bill O'Reilly, after he had to leave because of his serial sexual harassment, like, he was making a big hay of, I'm going to start my own independent project. We barely heard from Bill O'Reilly after that.
Yeah.
It really is the same thing here. I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm shocked that his 8-part series with the Obama blowjob guy didn't cause his, media impact to expand. I thought it was riveting.
He's doing just more and more weird, kind of Christian theocracy stuff, conspiracy things, and trying to lay the groundwork for Trump. Maybe he's going to be assassinated. He can't find an angle or a hook. And he also hitched his wagon to Elon Musk, making Twitter into a video streaming platform, which was absurd on its face at the beginning. So it's fun to see Tucker fail. And you just see how Fox News, really, the machine makes the man, not the other way around. And I love seeing these bad people learn that the hard way. But regardless, he had Glenn Greenwald on his program. And we know Glenn has become a bit more of a libertarian in recent years. And we certainly have disagreed with him on quite a bit. But at the very least, he's stood firm in his support of, free speech absolutism. And that also is, I think, important in terms of his coverage of Israel and things like BDS laws, where in the majority of states in this country, it is illegal to boycott Israel, which is clearly a First Amendment violation. And he brings this up to Tucker Carlson, whose commentary about Gaza has basically been limited to, this is anti-Christian discrimination because they're bombing Christians in Gaza as well. And that's basically it, not the genocide part. But here he is, and Glenn kind of surprises Tucker by telling him about this well discussed and well-known fact about BDS legislation in America.
In the Obama administration and then in the Trump administration passed laws that said this. It said, if you are a contractor and you work with the state, from now on, you have to sign a pledge that you do not believe in and will not participate in a boycott of the state of Israel. And I interviewed this woman and profiled her once. She was this speech pathologist in Austin, Texas. Her specialty was she worked with children who had speech disability.
What does that mean, a boycott? So you can't refuse to buy Israeli products?
Yeah, there's a movement, in the 1980s, there was a movement to divest from South Africa, to boycott South Africa, not to go to South Africa, not to buy its goods in order to bring down the apartheid regime. So there's a similar movement called the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. Let's not invest in Israel. Let's not go to Israel. Let's not support its products in order to end the occupation and give the Palestinians a state. In the United States, in 24 different states, there's a law that says you cannot get a contract with the state unless you now sign this pledge saying you don't support this boycott and will not participate.
You have to sign a loyalty pledge to a foreign country?
Only one. This is the amazing thing. You're allowed to boycott any other country in the world, including your own. You can boycott Peru. You can boycott South Korea. You can say, I'm not going to buy Norwegian goods.
You can boycott South Dakota.
Well, that's the other thing.
Or Wisconsin.
Andrew Cuomo, who did this by executive order, said that anyone who boycotts Israel has no right to have a contract. He wrote a Washington Post op-ed. The headline was, if you boycott Israel, we'll boycott you. Not 6 months before that and 6 months after, by executive order, he required state employees to boycott the state of North Carolina and then the state of Indiana in protest of their bathroom bills that they enacted for, if you have to use the bathroom of your biological choice. So not only are you allowed to boycott your own country and harm economically the citizens of other states, Andrew Cuomo actually ordered boycotts of American states while at the same time banning anybody from boycotting the state of Israel. It's a single country that has all kinds of special privileges and rights. And let me just tell you another thing.
Did anyone say anything about this?
Yeah.
No,
people did.
No one said anything.
So this is from 2019.
He knows. I'm sorry, Tucker knows. He's not stupid. He knows.
From 2019 here, Human Rights Watch. 250 million Americans, some 78% of the population, live in states with anti-boycott laws or practices. 27 states have adopted laws or policies that penalize businesses, organizations, or individuals that engage in or call for boycotts against Israel. The laws or policies in 17 of those states explicitly target not only companies that refuse to do business with, in or with Israel, but also those that refuse to do business in Israeli settlements. So the point is that, Tucker Carlson, I heard about free speech from you over and over and over again, and how they're coming for you, and the left is so authoritarian. And you didn't know about the most widely disseminated anti-free speech law in this country, and you're just learning about it now. And he probably did know, but
Of course he did.
But he didn't care until now. Maybe he can get an angle on it at some point to be anti-Semitic about it, to appeal to his white nationalist audience. But I doubt that he'll even bring this up, even though he'd been crying about free speech. I mean, Barry Weiss is the exact same thing. They're mercenary about it, and they know that they're not sincere. And when the contradiction is laid bare in front of them, they just disregard it, because free speech to them is being able to say slurs in public or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that contradiction is important, because it certainly is a gift to actual anti-Semites to have laws like these, and to have a country where the population has such a poor understanding of like the complex ways in which the military-industrial complex, Christian evangelical, leaders with lots of money, and the various other stakeholders in supporting an Israeli state, but not necessarily Jewish people, are behind these kinds of laws for, again, another complex series of reasons. But when you see stuff like this, when you hear about stuff like this in passing, or things like where you watch the State Department's press conference and they're obviously lying about things in ways that are, impossible to ignore, it just provides space for anti-Semites like Nick Fuentes to come in and provide a very obvious and very fallacious excuse. Was because it's Jewish people and they run the world, and that must be the reason, because what other reason are you hearing that makes any sense? And obviously the left has a very coherent reason for why these things happen, but you don't hear that, not from Tucker Carlson, and not even from mainstream media. You don't hear about the fact that many people in AIPAC aren't Jewish or aren't even Israeli. They're just like American military industrial contractors and evangelicals. And so you're just left to fill in the blanks with whatever pieces happen to exist in our culture that explain it. And our culture is just full of anti-Semitic tropes.
Well, and I'm sorry, but that is also what the Netanyahu government and what Likud, what the Israeli government benefits from too, which is that keeping people in the dark like this allows them to basically elevate and further anti-Semitism, because people are unaware of like the structural issues or why Israel is important to the United States from a military intelligence standpoint, and how Palestine was previously colonized and then given to Israel strategically, and that it became a settler colonial movement and all those kinds of things. Then it just, for the average person, for some, or not the average person, but to your point, Brandon, then there's going to be people that make that oversimplified, racist, bigoted argument, and then they get to point to that. Like, Israel needs Americans to be in the dark and be steeped in Hasbara, because then they can continue to justify their existence by fomenting anti-Semitism in the United States. So that's that. All right, guys, let's take a call really quickly.
Sorry, just another note on that. Tucker absolutely knew about this stuff. He talks about how much he loves to vacation in Israel. He's been in the news for, over my entire adult life. He was just too busy repeating allegations from a human trafficker that Ilhan Omar married her brother when he was on Fox News. Right. That's the type of thing he was doing. But it's, the thing about the North Carolina hypocrisy angle that Glenn got into at the end there, it's like, no, we do support boycotts though. I think that's fine. And I think it'd be interesting to get into the fact that it was wrong that North Carolina, for instance, passed that law against trans people. But when you just have a free speech angle, you can't really get into that sort of thing. But that's the problem when Tucker asks the question of, has anybody been talking about this? Glenn is obscuring the entire left wing who has been talking about this. And maybe I'm wrong. He
mentions Cuomo. Talk about the Republican apparatus that is the most pro-Israel body in our entire country, right?
Right. No, but I'm talking about the people who have been talking about anti-BDS legislation this whole time, including Glenn Greenwald on this fucking program before it was even a podcast on Air America. The entire liberal left that you say is too degenerate to talk about free speech has actually been pretty good on on this issue. It might be nice to mention that to Tucker Carlson's
Good point.
audience, but
Yeah.
maybe we don't want to, encourage that sort of a permeable barrier between people who are, misled to think Tucker's new revelations on these things are some kind of insight.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, not to
And it's a
jump on
great
that,
point you
we're
made
gonna-
before, Matt, too, about how, this is the same Tucker Carlson that broke the scoops about Ilhan Omar marrying her brother and Obama's, gay sex tryst or whatever. You mean to tell me the guy with these bullshit stories, he never heard of the anti-BDS laws? Like, give me a break.
Please.
Give me a break.
What's going on?
I do think.
How did I miss this?
I do think it's a good example of what, we always say free speech, especially amongst these like far right content creators, always means, which is a lack of your freedom to disassociate with someone or some other entity, institution, country that you feel is doing wrong, is supporting fascism, is just generally not a good actor. And you're not allowed to do that unless you can prove in a court of law that they have violated some sort of like actual legal statute. You're not allowed to advocate people to lose their platform. You're not allowed to do anything that is simply just like a soft advocacy or direct action. It has to be done through the legal channels of having like violated some very specific statute. And so they don't want you to be able to say, no, we are voluntarily disassociating from, Milo Yiannopoulos or Israel or any of these other things that are benefiting from the promotion or actively enacting fascist agendas, because that's just not, that's the way to make the money.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.